Welcome to Cashflow Savannah, episode 68. Chandler, we have an OG on the podcast today, Gabe Santon.
Yeah, no, he's always good to talk to. I feel like I see him. He's everywhere. He's at every meetup. He comes to all the events, so he's always good to talk to.
I've known Gabe for several years, and I want to say, in my opinion, one of the reasons for his success is because he's a dang bulldog. If Gabe says he's going to do something, he is going to do it. And I met him, I think about 2 years ago, and he said, I found you on Bigger Pockets. I'm going to move to Savannah just for the market. And I'm like, okay, this 23-year-old's going to do this. Okay. I talked to him. Next thing I know, he's down there visiting. Next thing I know, he's moved here and we're closing. Like, he is very driven, and I'm not shocked at all by Gabe's success. He's just a good human.
Yeah, no, he's first time I talked to him, I was like, okay, this dude's pretty sophisticated. He understands what I'm talking about. I love how he's like, yeah, cash flow probably won't make as much. Like, he just knew, he really understood it. And he's only gonna get better.
He is. Let's make a prediction, Chandler. This will be fun. The loser has to buy the other a margarita. I love to win a margarita. So Gabe is 24. He's on his second deal. So when he hits 30, how many deals you make? Let's each make a number here. We're gonna bet on Gabe, obviously, very positively. I'm gonna throw out that by the time Gabe hits his 30th birthday, he's gonna have done, I'm a believer. I'm gonna say he's gonna do 12 deals between now he's on number two and he's 24. And I think by the time 6 years from now, he'll have done 12 or at least be involved in 12.
Yeah, no, I like that number, 12.
What do you think?
I'm gonna go with like more. I'm gonna go with like 16. Because
Nice.
I think he'll do one or two and then he'll kind of just keep
I agree.
quadrupling, so
All
yeah.
right. Well, I hope to buy you a margarita because I would love to see Gabe do 16 deals by his 30th birthday. So, Gabe, if you're listening, we both believe in you. So, without further ado, we're going to bring in our very good friend. We love him so much, Gabe Santon. Welcome back to the podcast, Gabe Santon. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We are awesome. Gabe, for those of you that may or may not have seen Gabe's previous episode, Gabe is one of my favorite clients. Gabe, you were episode, I'm trying to look at, shoot, we're going to have to edit this out, Earl. Gabe came on our podcast. He was episode 52. For those of you that want a little bit deeper dive into Gabe's background, Gabe is a local investor. He moved here for the Savannah market. He has a great team. He's got a great plan. And this guy does not let any grass grow beneath his feet. You are one of the best, Gabe.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It was a fun one the first time, and I'm sure it'll be fun again. I'm happy to be back.
That's right. You are now on your second deal. Tell us are you comfortable telling us how old you are? I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely. I just turned 24 in February. A little bit about me is I moved here from New Jersey just before I turned 23 last year. It's coming up on a year now, which is kind of crazy in Savannah. I bought my first property through Julie after being here for about 3 weeks, a month roughly. I was able to get into that property. That's on the State Streets. It's a 3-bed, 3-bath house that I house hack. I rent out room by room.
Very good. How did you learn about house hacking, Gabe?
I actually got the real estate bug through Bigger Pockets.
Right.
During COVID, I was looking up ways to make money online or easily, I guess I typed in. And real estate was the first thing that popped up, and it really broke me in. That was in college. That was during COVID. So what, almost 5 years now? They really suckered me in with that one. But house hacking, I just saw once I went down that rabbit hole, was the best way, in my opinion, to get started. Kind of kills two birds with one stone. You need somewhere to live always, and you might as well have a couple roommates, or rent out the other side of a duplex or something like that, and let somebody at least take down your mortgage, if not pay the whole thing. In my case.
Well, and for you to call me at 23 and say, I'm Gabe, I'm going to move to Savannah because of the real estate market. It's so strong, which I agree. It is a great market. And you're on your second deal. We'll talk about that later, but you bought a 3-bedroom, 3-bath home, which was perfect. May I compliment you? You live in the worst bedroom with the worst bathroom. And not that they're bad, but you chose the smallest bedroom with the smallest bathroom, and you have to walk across the hall. And you were smart enough to say, hey, these other 2 bedrooms are en suite. I'm going to let my tenants, use them. Just talk a little bit about that. Do you cash flow? How's it gone? Like, the rent by the bedroom strategy is very hot right now.
Yeah, so I do actually cash flow. Like you said, I live in the smallest room, and I'm the only one that has to leave the bedroom to get to the bathroom, which, I mean, realistically, it's about a step and a half across the hall. So it's not a big deal for me by any means. But when I first bought the place, I was considering either leaving the rooms unfurnished and trying to get somebody in there as quick as possible, or furnishing them, spending a little more money and, raising the rent up more. And that's what I ended up doing, which I'm glad I did because I do cash flow that way. Two other rooms, when they're both rented out, pay for the mortgage, plus it's like $100. I mean, I pay the utilities off the rip by myself. I pay for all the utilities in the house. So it kind of goes right towards that, but it's still much better than, paying for a whole place by yourself. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's huge to cut down that. That's the biggest expense in your life most of the time. So cutting that down is just massive.
Yeah, I'm big on efficiency. So stuff that just makes sense to me and, can keep me doing what I really want to do. I try my hardest to make it happen, and it usually tends to work out pretty well.
How's it been just finding the tenants? Is it harder than you thought? Is it a little bit easier? Like what's that process been like?
So I do midterm rentals. Ideally, I like to have like 6 months at a time. I would say there has been a little more turnover than I expected, mainly in just the one room. My first tenant was a nurse. She was a traveling nurse who actually got to Savannah and liked it so much that she stayed. Lucky for me. So the one room was rented for like 9 months. That was my first tenant. She was awesome. She just moved out in January, and she had been there like since I got the place. So that one had been real solid. And then the other one had, it's turned over a couple times now. I think I'm on like my third tenant in there, maybe like 4 months. And then one was like a quick, like 2 month stint. And then I had to turn it over to the guy that's in there now. But I mean, I use Furnish Finder. Furnish Finder's great, honestly. They just text you when you have a new lead, and they have a lot of requirements that people fill in to make sure that you're getting matches and it's not somebody who wants like a 4 bed, 2 bath house like reaching out to you for one room. You know what I mean? They're funneling the leads for you. But besides Furnish Finder, I'm just in a bunch of Facebook group chats in Savannah, Savannah located people, SCAD group chats. I just post a link there. I shoot a little paragraph that says, hey, this is the location. This is what you would be getting. It's a private bed with an ensuite bath. And then I just link the Furnish Finder link below, because a lot of stuff on Facebook it's hit or miss, right? It's people are out there scamming and stuff like that. So to add the Furnish Finder link and like show people like, okay, this is a real place and this is a real person, it just gives you a little more credit. But that's worked well so far. I haven't really needed any other pathways between Facebook and Furnish Finder.
How much furniture are you providing, Gabe?
I have in each bedroom, so the whole place is furnished. I mean, again, that's kind of like, I want a living room to sit down in and a kitchen table. So like it's kind of two birds, one stone again. But for the room specifically, it's a bed frame, a bed, obviously sheets and, pillows and all that. And then a dresser with a TV on it in both rooms is pretty much it. And a nightstand. So nothing crazy. I mean, they both have built-in closets, and the bathroom is just really just extra towels.
No.
But it wasn't like, an arm and a leg to necessarily furnish them, which is why I went ahead and did it. And it bumps up the rent like almost $200 per room at least. So it's already paid dividends in the less than a year that I've had it.
Very
I feel like just making it convenient for people to come in is probably the best way to do it. If it's inconvenient,
Yeah, and it's a good selling point too. It's like, hey, if you have a desk or something you want to bring, like absolutely, I'll help you move it in, no problem. But if you just want to bring your clothes and throw them in the closet and have somewhere to sleep, it's all ready for you. So it's just something to build off of. You know what I mean? Like you can start here and go up, or you can just stay there and be comfortable.
Have you had any personality issues, Gabe, between the guests or between yourself and guests, or what's that been like?
No, everything's been really good. I use Turbo Tenant to vet people, so they
Okay.
still have to fill out an application and just make sure that everybody that's coming into the house is going to be safe. And it's nice that I'm there. So what I usually do is I'll have a 5 minute introductory phone call with them. If that goes well, I'll say, okay, you can come check out the room, or we can do a FaceTime just so they can see the place and get acclimated with it. And then if that goes well again, I'll send them the Turbo Tenant link, and it's like, it's an application fee. I think it's like $50 for them to apply. If everything looks good on their end, when that comes back, I send them the lease to look over. If they have any questions, they ask them. And if not, we go forward and sign it. But just being able to be there and saying like, okay, like would I want to live with this person has made it a lot easier to not have those personality clashes.
You've had it about a year. Is that right? I can't remember exactly when you closed.
Yeah, roughly a year. Yep.
Okay. So technically you could go buy another one because you bought this. Did you buy it FHA, Gabe?
I bought this one conventional
Okay.
just because I wanted I mean, I'm gonna have to refinance it either way. And I just wanted the mortgage insurance to be able to come off. So when I do refinance it, I want it to be as low as possible. But yeah, I mean, that is the goal. Like you said, I got another deal going on now to, get this cash back that I put into this one. And then that's the idea again is go get another house hack and keep this one.
Well, and we'll get to your second deal in a second. So, but you have this house in the State Streets, which the State Streets are such a great location. If anyone's not familiar, they're just turning a direction southeast of the historic district towards Tybee and just really great location. So, like if today you could buy another one, would you buy another house hack, Gabe, move into it and then rent the bedroom that you're in now? What's your kind of next plan for the real estate you're planning to keep? What's the next purchase for you?
Yeah, so I think I do want a house hack again. Ideally, I would look for a duplex this time.
Okay.
The single family was a good place to start. And I think as far as the room I live in now, I would either do what you just said, Julie, where rent it out to another, a third person, or maybe just keep all the furniture there and rent it out to, a family or somebody who wants a bigger midterm rental space. I think it works well as a midterm. I think the State Streets are a great place to have a midterm. That's where I lived in a midterm while I was looking for this place. So I kind of have an idea of what I can rent that for there, either individually bedroom wise or as a whole. But I mean, I haven't come across any problems renting it out room to room. So I honestly think I might just do that and after I buy this other one. But it's definitely staying in the portfolio for sure.
Yeah, I'd stick to the bedroom, rent by bedroom right now, especially for what we've seen in the medium term market kind of soften and everybody's kind of competing on price. And I'm like, I'm just get long term rent numbers compared to what people are getting medium term rent numbers. So it kind of makes more sense just to do about a bedroom.
How does that math compare, Gabe? Have you compared the rent? I mean, I can speak to this honestly. In the State Streets, a 3.3, you'd probably get, I'd say at most 2,200 a month. You probably make that plus some with your two bedrooms, or how does that compare? Do you mind sharing how much you charge per bedroom?
Not at all. So the lowest threshold on Furnish Finder is below $1,200. So it's below 1,200 and then it goes from like 1,200 to 2,000 or something like that for the price ranges. So I priced both of my rooms at 1195.
Okay.
So I would be right under that lowest threshold. They both rented for that, no problems. Actually, in the middle there, the one gentleman moved out of the one room right before the fall. So like with the holidays coming up, I think it dropped to 1,100. And then when that person moved out again, I put it back at 1195. But I mean, that's just two rooms. Once I move out of this third one,
Yeah.
there's a whole nother one there. Like we were saying, that one's a little smaller. So maybe not that price, but I mean, still, the more you can break it up, anything in life, right? The more you can charge for it. So
Very cool.
Yeah, that's 11.95. I just do the bedroom. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
you're making the most money there. That's smart. But at least you have options. You don't ever want to buy real estate without having multiple exit strategy. You can always sell it. You can always turn it into long-term rental. You can keep renting by the bedroom. You can literally do whatever you want. Like you said, you can rent it as a 3-3, the entire house. So that's huge that you have those options. That's very important. Well, tell us about your second deal and tell us how you put it together. How did you even get into the second deal? I didn't get to be a part of it. So tell us all the details.
yeah, so when I say I have a partner, Cameron Crosby is a Savannah native. So definitely nice to be with somebody who knows the area a little more and grew up here. Cameron and I met at the Savannah Cash Flow meetup
Yes, you did.
through the lovely
Great,
Julie
full of
Gates, of
great people.
course.
Absolutely. I love Cameron Crosby. He is fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean it's great because we're in the same boat, right? Like we're the same age. We were both just getting started out of college, and we knew we wanted to do a flip next. I knew I wanted to do a flip because, like I said, I wanted to recoup the money that I did have to put down for this first one, so I can go buy my second one. And Cameron's family has a little bit of real estate history, and I'm pretty sure you worked with his uncle, so he was kind of getting into the renovation side of things and knew a little bit more about that. So the two of us combined together, and we have a flip going on in Port Wentworth right now. We
Awesome.
got that. Cameron and I met in the summer, I want to say July, August, and we were able to lock up that flip together in December.
How'd you find that deal?
Cameron works at me and Madison, so he's got access to a lot of off-market deals. He works with wholesalers a lot, and he just really hit it hard. Kudos to him. He's actually how we found the deal. We met the seller a couple times out at the property. She was a real nice lady. It was a real, back and forth thing. Fun negotiating with her, and we were able to lock it up. We thought. Port Wentworth is one of those places that's on the come up, you could say, around Savannah. It's more our price range for the first one, not downtown Savannah or midtown, anything like that, but something we can handle and still make some money on and learn a lot for our first one together.
Well, just for reference for our viewer, in case someone is not from Savannah, Port Wentworth is right next to Port of Savannah. Wentworth refers to the port. And I'm going to call it, an average, community. And it's a great area for people to rent, get to work. There are so many jobs around and, people like to be close to work. So you have all kind of industry there. You have trucking, Gulfstream and the airport is right there. The port is there. The sugar refinery is there. Port Wentworth, it doesn't get as much love as like Pooler, but it is on the west side of Savannah, but really, really fantastic location there, Gabe. That's really smart. Are you comfortable sharing what you paid for the house and how many bedrooms and bathrooms it has and the condition?
Yeah, absolutely. So we paid 65,000 for it.
Oh,
When we got it, there was somehow no bathrooms in it. It was a three-bed, no bath house. To be fair, it was already partially renovated. This is a full gut job.
Never
If
heard of
you're
that.
interested, you guys can follow us on flip_Savannah on Instagram. We're kind of posting our progress there week by week and throwing some stories in the middle. But somebody looked like they were trying to take on the project and then just kind of gave it up. And that's not the seller we got it from, but she didn't do anything to it either. So it was a full one for the first one. So we got it for 65. It's about $100,000 rehab. We're doing everything to it. We're making it, moving turnkey ready. It's going to be a 3-bed, 2-bath.
great.
So there was an addition on the back of it that they had added and got permitted and all that. So it's going to be a little bigger than what it reads right now, which is great for us because that's where we added the second bathroom. So we knew like adding square footage was going to be a big way to sell it for us and be able to provide the maximum value for somebody. So it's going to be a 3-bed, 2-bath. We're looking at it listed for 250.
Wow. It's a great
Cool.
price point. I know that neighborhood very well. I've worked in that neighborhood. It's on Aberfeldy. Very, very, very exciting.
Yeah, I mean Aberfeldy, like you were saying, it's not Fort Wentworth is great because it's not Pooler. Like it's you know what I mean in a good way. It's right
Right.
outside of Pooler. We're 5 minutes from Gulfstream. We're like 3 minutes from the port. But it's also 5 minutes from Pooler, all the shops and the outlets and everything like that. So you're not clustered and you can still have a nice backyard and nice quiet neighborhood and then go into that on the weekends if you want to. So it's definitely grown on me, the neighborhood for sure.
This is a random question, but how often do you go to that project? Because I have a follow-up question on top of this one. Are you out there like weekly, Gabe, or how frequently are you out there?
Yeah, a couple times a week.
Okay.
Usually the way it works out, Cam goes one time a week, I'll go another time a week, and then we meet our contractor out there to go over like a weekly meeting on like Friday afternoon or something like that.
The reason I ask, what cracks me up between Garden City and Port Wentworth, which Port Wentworth is right on top of Garden City, the trains make me crazy. How frequently, if you go 2 times a week, how frequently do you get stopped by a train, Gabe? Is it 4 or is it 12?
It is, no, it's been 4, luckily.
It's a lot.
But every time you go over that train track, you're like, man, I hope I don't get this on the way home
You'll hit
because
a
it's
train
like,
coming in, you're gonna hit a train leaving. People
oh
out
my
there,
God.
I mean, people that live there are fine, but every time I'm there, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've already gotten hit by 2 trains on one drive, but there are so many train tracks because of the port. It's so, anyway, I'm sorry, I had to throw that out there.
No, it's funny you say that. It happened the other day for the first time in like 2 weeks, and I was like, hopefully this is my one for the month, and I can just dodge. But there's no times or anything like that. Like you never know when it's going to come through.
The
Could be
worst part,
11, it could be 4 in
yeah.
the afternoon. There's a train coming one way or the other.
Multiple times I have been trying to get through Garden City and the train just stops because they're loading it from the port, I think. I'm just hoping for a good reason, but it'll literally go across Highway 21 and just sit there for like 20 minutes sometimes. And you're like suicidal. It's horrible.
That's funny you mentioned that. Yeah, it is not a fun experience, especially when you're trying to get home after a long day.
But people that live there, they're just used to it. We don't get any
Yeah.
either. We manage out there. I mean, I'm the only one with an issue, I guess.
I want to ask how the managing the construction has been because I think that's probably the hardest thing, especially on that big of a construction project.
Huge.
How's that been?
Yeah, so we actually got a great general contractor. I like the guy a lot that we're using. He's managing a lot of the heavy lifting for sure. He's got his teams built out. He's keeping us in the loop along the way. We have a lot of text exchange, and like I said, we have that weekly meeting at the end of the week just to recap what happened, what went wrong, and how we fixed it, and what the next steps are. So I mean, it makes all the difference in the world having somebody that you can rely on like that, especially this being our first one. Like that just helps me sleep a lot better at night for sure. And the way we structured it money wise, he's actually in on the deal with us. So he's getting us across the finish line on this first one. And I like that myself because it just motivates him to do it well and, to pursue it and see it out through the end because I mean that's how he's getting paid back is on the sale. So he wants it to sell just as fast and just as high as we do. So
That's
Well,
huge.
I like that.
I got to be involved in this because Gabe was telling me for a while, I want to flip, I want to flip. And I was so nervous for you, as you know, Gabe, using hard money because I'm seeing a lot of problems in the market right now. It's hard to flip into a down market and it's not super down, but things are not up. I guess maybe flat would be a better way to say it. But it's hard to flip in that kind of a market. And I was concerned for you. And then my other concern is that we're seeing things take, at least 60 days, maybe a little longer to close. And when you're using hard money, adding potentially 90 days on there is not good. I mean, you're going to be out a lot of fees. So talk a little bit about that. And I really encourage you to explore hard money, but also other options. And you really went hard for that. And it's great that you found the contractor, but can you kind of talk about that process? Because I'm so excited for y'all's numbers and I feel like you're going to hit them, but talk about why.
yeah, absolutely. So when we first started, Cam and I, we knew we each had a decent amount of money saved up. We knew we could contribute to either a down payment on hard money or the rehab, however it was going to work out, but we knew we couldn't fund the whole thing ourselves. And hard money is initially where we went to against Julie's better judgment for sure. She kind of drilled that into us. We talked to like maybe 10 hard money guys, I would say, around the holidays. And the way the numbers weren't bad and we were confident in what we were doing, but just the lack of experience really killed us with them. They would be willing to fund some of it, but it was just such a big rehab job for the first one that they were like, it doesn't just really make sense for us to give you top dollar of what we can do. They're like, well, we can go up to this, but we're more comfortable giving you this. And that would be fine if it was, lipstick rehab and we were in and out within 30 days or something like that. But like you said, like, if they tell you 3 months and you're sitting at month 4 and 5, like that just starts eating away at your profit. So we definitely tried. I mean, we tried probably for 3 weeks, just nonstop phone calls and meetings and stuff like that. And I mean, looking back on it, thankfully it didn't work out. Everything happens for a reason, So we ended up going and getting private money. My mom and Cam's grandpa are both in on the deal they split the purchase price and they're going to get their money plus 10% back on the back end, which is great. Honestly, everything we have set up for this one is payback upon sale. And I just sleep so much better at night knowing that there's no monthly payment like hanging over my head. Like, holy
Yeah.
crap, we need to be out in 60 days and the 61st day is not going to be any good for us. But it was a little tougher of a conversation for me because I just didn't want to feel like I was getting a handout. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to earn it and be able to do it myself, but it wasn't like I'm just asking her to give me money and just not pay her back like my mom. So she was happy to do it. I knew she would be happy to do it from the start, but I just didn't want that to be my first call and be like, hey, can I have this money? So to know that she's in on it and making money on it makes it feel a little better for sure.
Well, and Gabe, she and Cameron's grandpa, they have first lien position, right? But essentially, it's all legal. Is that
Yeah, it's all
right?
on paperwork and documented. So,
You're
yep, they have first lien position. Absolutely.
you're doing someone a service, paying them 10% on their money that probably was making 0.5%, in a savings account or something. So I was really glad when I heard that y'all had private money. So what you're telling me, I just want to make sure I understand, and this is for the listener. So you did not take out a traditional bank mortgage. You got I'm gonna keep it simple, $60,000 purchase price. So arguably your mom put in 30 and then the grandpa put in 30 and they both have first lien position. And then the contractor gets a cut. And then when you sell, no one gets paid until you sell, but there's already an established rate on the back end for the lenders and also the contractors.
Yeah, so that's correct. That's how we did the purchase. And then Cam and I have just about half of the rehab in there
Okay.
with our own money. And then our contractor, Paul, is doing the rest of it. And we had a conversation with him. He's already got profit in his scope of work that he gave us. So we said, would you be willing to get us across the finish line on this rehab? And we'll give you an extra percentage when we sell it. So, I mean, he's putting in, if you want to do purchase and rehab, he's putting in close to a third of the money. And we're giving him, we're giving him his profit, obviously. We're going to make him whole on his scope of work, and then we're giving him 15%, whatever we profit on the deal.
That's really great. When you bring up I'm sorry, I just know too much about this deal, but I'm going to lead you through it because I think everyone's going to be interested. So you bring up the contractor, and I'm dying to talk about the contractor. I don't know him personally, but you and I, through talking about this deal multiple times, realized that I know his backstory a little bit in that this contractor, unfortunately, was the victim of a different real estate investor who did get in trouble using hard money. And they were not able to pay him. And so, talk a little bit about that. I know he shared, we're not here to share names or gossip by any means, but I think it's a great learning opportunity to say this is kind of the downside. And he's talked to you about what he's been through with other rehabbers.
Yeah, so how Paul and I met was when I was up north looking to buy a house. Before I came down here, Julie and I put one under contract, and the inspection came back with some things a little wonky on the foundation. So I wanted to talk to the contractor that did the work, and this gentleman Paul that we're using did all the work on the inside of the house, and the house was beautiful. Like
Beautiful.
we had seen his work, like it was really nice. And he's an investor himself. He does his own flips and works for other people, but. I called him when this house was under contract asking about the foundation, and he was like, I didn't do that work, but if you want to go through buying this house, you should get this warranty or put this in the contract so you don't have to pay for it. Like we just had a really good conversation, and he was really informative to me without even really knowing me. And I was kind of like questioning his work, like, hey, did you do this? Like, why did you do this? So we had a really good conversation, and I said before I hung up, I said, I'm coming down to Savannah, and whether I buy this house or not, I want to be in the real estate industry when I get down there. I'm going to keep your number, and I'll give you a call when I have some work to do. And sure enough, that's little less than a year later, I said, hey, I remember we were looking for contractors, and we had, gone through a couple, and I said, I got one more guy. Let's give this guy a call too. And, we did what we were supposed to do. We got at least 3 estimates for all the work. It wasn't the cheapest, but like I said, I had known his work, and I didn't necessarily want to use the cheapest anyway. So it just, the stars aligned. And then again, it was a big help that he was willing to work with us on the deal, put in his own money. So, I mean, that just added to our relationship already.
Talk about his situation that he got in with the other rehabber where they weren't able to pay.
Yeah, so he was doing work for them and bidding jobs, and some jobs he was winning and some jobs he wasn't winning. And then that kind of seemed like it was okay at that point. The jobs he was winning, he was getting paid for. But then he started not getting those jobs because, like I said, he's not the cheapest. Takes pride in his work, and they were just going with the cheapest. And then he would get calls a couple months after that saying, hey, can you go to these houses and fix the work that these guys did? Like appliances not fitting and, material not being where it's supposed to be and all this stuff. And that's when, a couple invoices kept getting skipped is what it sounded like. But I mean, he's been in the industry long enough where it didn't like completely sink him, and he knows to cut that person off. And like you said, he's not the only one that's happened to. It's really unfortunate, but luckily for him, he's been around the block and knew like, all right, I can see where this is going. Like, I'm going to stop answering these phone calls and stop referring people too, because he's told me stories where he's referred people and they don't get paid, and who looks bad in that situation, So it was a pretty rough scenario for a little bit. Like you said, Julie, it happens. But he had that foresight out, before it went completely downhill.
Smart. I started investing here in 2004, and by 2006, we had quite a bit of construction going on for commercial. We bought multiple commercial buildings and then we built them out for what we needed them for. And I watched things slide into the abyss during this, and the contractors and the guys like who you're working with, they went down very quickly. They don't have a lot of backup money, sitting around. And when the investor fails and stops paying them, they get in trouble very quickly. It was very tough watching the tradespeople go out of business, and they almost went out of business before the real estate people did. It was brutal to watch. So when you told me this, and I had heard stories about a lot of people, unfortunately, the investor got in trouble, was not able to pay their bills, and that meant everyone, including the lender, including the contractors. And these are things that are rarely talked about, unfortunately. But we need to take care of our tradespeople. They're incredibly valuable. The guy that can do your sheetrock, I don't want to do his job. And I really appreciate that he's going to do it. And they do tend to live hand to mouth. They live on that money. So if they're going to do the work on Monday, they're going to need to get, need to get paid on Friday. That they're kind of used to this weekly payment system. So I just encourage everyone who's going to do any level of construction, find the best guy and take great care of them. Sometimes you get in trouble, but I just wanted to bring that out because I thought that was interesting that you had run into the same contractor that had really kind of taken the brunt of a few things, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that at lunch, and I kind of thought I knew what you were talking about, and then I went back to him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's the story."
One thing that listeners can listen to is like, you're like, I didn't take the cheapest guy, which most people do. And man, I tell you what, you get what you pay for. 'Cause I've seen it happen too many times. And even the contractor that I use now, I've been with them on quotes. He's like, I won't be the cheapest guy, but guess what? You'll be calling me after you choose the cheapest guy to come fix your work. He said it just right in front of him. And I've seen that happen so many times. So the listeners out there need to take that advice for sure.
Well, and if there's
Yeah,
one thing I've learned about this industry, the contractor, their thing is to blame the other guy. That's how they get out of a lot of stuff. They'll go, oh, but this other guy over here ruined it. I'm just trying to fix it. So it's kind of hard to find people to take ownership. But like Chandler said, if you can find a guy that'll kind of guarantee his own work, knowing he did it right, that's huge because he's most likely not going to blame the other guy if you hired him from the beginning.
yeah, absolutely.
One thing I like is like, because most contractors are just not good at giving quotes and they'll like underquote or most time underquote. Then they come back and oh, I need an extra 20,000, which I like most contractors like, hey, once I give you a quote, that's what you get. If I have to go out of my own pocket because I didn't give you the right quote, then that's what I'm going to do. And so I like those kind of contractors.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's got his own money in the deal. Like he's the one that's getting us across the finish line on the rehab, and we're paying him on the back end. So like, something happens, well, we'll obviously compensate him when we need to, but for now, like he's got to be, he's got to have a little reserve to be ready for whatever. So he's, like I said, he's been in the industry. He's a smart guy who's confident in his work. So I'm happy that we built this relationship on flip number one. So going
Yeah.
forward, we have
Yeah.
somebody for the rest of them.
Sounds like you're in good hands with him.
Well, Gabe, you're now in your next iteration because I know how much you love real estate. You've always been in sales, but you've now, you moved here with one job that was in sales. You've now left that job. Tell Chandler and I and our audience, what are you doing now? You love real estate so much, it's now your full-time job.
Yeah, so I now work for Guild Mortgage in Savannah. We're a residential mortgage lender here, local in Savannah, which is a bigger deal than people think, and it's great. It's I used to work in the electrical field, the electrical industry, doing sales, and my favorite day of the month was Cash Flow Savannah Meetup Day. And I would just always leave it feeling so motivated, and like those are the best conversations I've had all month. So I really took an interest in the lending side of things, and decided to pivot full time into the mortgage industry.
How's that been so far?
It's going well, man. I've learned a lot, a lot of the money side, absolutely, and just different options that people have. You're kind of limited to what you hear on social media or read in books until you really open your mind and discover, and especially on the back end of it, like for me, being able to see a whole product hub and product resources and all the requirements that need to go into to lending has been really eye-opening for sure.
Well, and from the agent side, I've closed deals with all kinds of lenders and I've worked with Guild a ton. The work, I hate to say it, but the biggest issues I've seen holding up closings, ruining closings, all of the above. A lot of times it's what we call online lenders, which is an online name that everyone knows. It's nice to know that name, but you also know that they're not local. They don't really care much about you or the deal or working with you ever again. They're just very transactional and their back end, what is it called? Underwriting department.
Mhm.
Gosh, they can just make or break the deal. So if they're going to come back at the last minute and demand XYZ on the insurance policy or who knows what, it can kill a deal very quickly. And just this week, I had three different properties I needed to show for people, and they all went into multi-offer situation before I could even get in. And when you're in a situation like that, I've seen it a dozen times. Almost always, if the pricing and terms are similar, the listing agent is going to choose the local lender that they know because Gabe, you and John Stahl, who you work with, and I have as well. I'm coming for him. If he messes up a deal, I'm going to drive to his office and yell at him, and threaten to never use him again. Like you need us local agents to give you business, so you're even more likely to do a good job. There is no, I'll never see Julie again. Who cares, right? So it's so wonderful to have a lender that has that name recognition, and having that Guild Mortgage pre-approval letter has helped me several times on deals because they go, I went with you because I know these guys and they're excellent, and I don't want to roll the dice with an online lender. I've had many listing agents say that to me. So, I love that you're with Guild. Talk about the pre-approval process, like and a lot of times people don't realize you can get a pre-approval letter from anyone to get under contract. You can always shop around and find another lender later. But, really the first step with you, Gabe, is getting that pre-approval letter. How does one go about doing that?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, John Stahl is who I work for here. He's our branch manager, and John's awesome. I knew he was my first call when I was getting into this and like really asking about it and discovering it because he did my loan and it was quick and simple. And we were kind of in a tight squeeze. I didn't want to have to pay next month's rent and all that stuff. So I think we closed in like 18 days or something like that, Julie, on mine. So he was my first call, and like you said, like those people from out of town, it's not that they don't care, but like they don't, the reputation isn't depending on that one deal in Savannah with that one realtor. Like, everything from us needs to be on the up and up, and we need to be ready to, explain ourselves and make it easy for you guys because we want you to come back and we want to build a good relationship for you. And, we have a great team between John and Alexis Jackson is our loan assistant here, and she's unbelievable. Anything you need, she can, any documents or anything that's missing, she'll tell you off the rip, and she'll bug you for it until she gets it for sure. If it's gonna make sure that the loan closes, she's gonna get it from you. But as far as the pre-approval process, I've talked to a couple realtors about this since I've been doing this, and like every realtor wants you pre-approved, right, Julie? Like it just makes sense to do this first and then start looking at houses. Like if you're going to buy a $500,000 house, you can only afford three, you're just wasting everybody's time. So for us, the best way to do it is to get in contact with me. I have multiple ways. We have a Guild app now, which is great. Realtors can send the link. There's a link on my Instagram that you can go apply online to. Obviously, if you reach out to me and I respond to you, there's an apply now thing in my signature on my email. So there's so many ways to get to the application that in today's day and age, it's so easy to get pre-approved. And like you said, it doesn't have to be a specific property in mind or even, a specific location. Like if you get pre-approved here and then want to go to Georgia, or I'm sorry, not Georgia, Atlanta, it's still going to be, pretty much the same thing. And just being local again, we can run the fees at what they actually are to Savannah and Chatham County or Gwinnett County, wherever it may be that you're looking, compared to one of those out-of-state lenders who, they might make it look really attractive at first, and then you find a property and you get it under contract, and then suddenly you're paying double at the closing table because of the fees. So, I mean, being local and just being able to get those fees and be accurate with it is a big deal for us.
But I want to say I had one closing held up from an out-of-state lender, and they kept demanding the survey of the property, like a real estate survey. And I'm like, we don't do that in Georgia. It's not required. He had to go check that out and ask professionals that held up the closing because he was in Texas and he was used to Texas lending laws. It was kind of interesting. And then the other thing I wanted to say, Gabe, is that I can't show a home without someone having that pre-approval letter. The NAR changed the guidelines. I very much support it because we don't want people wasting our time. If they're not going to buy the house, why would you waste my time showing it to you? So anyone does have to have that letter in hand to see any property with an agent and in Georgia, actually nationwide. So really getting that letter from yourself, Gabe, or someone else, that's really the first step. Even you can do it before talking to an agent, but you definitely have to do it before seeing anything.
Yeah, I mean, it only makes sense to me. Like I said in the beginning, I'm big on efficiency, and that's just the way to do it.
So what's the learning process been like being completely new to it? A lot of learning, or is it kind of you understood most of it?
I feel like I may have a better grasp on it than somebody who's completely fresh just because of the interest I've taken in real estate over the past couple of years and, kind of just self-taught stuff. I feel like I'm a little farther along than some new people would be. I am actually coming across the issue of me assuming that people know what we offer as far as like investor wise. The biggest one so far is DSCR. We have some good DSCR, debt service coverage ratio, investment opportunities. And I feel like I don't mention that up front because I know it and I just assume realtors know it or contractors know it. And that's not always the case. So being unassumptive is what I'm going to start doing going forward.
What's your favorite loan product for real estate investors specifically, Gabe?
I mean, eventually coming up, it's gonna have to be the cash out refinance. I know just for myself, a refinance is in the future. But I mean, if you've bought anything with any type of long-term loan in the past couple of years or so, I mean, it's probably starting like 2023, 2024, the rates are going to come down and you're going to have to refinance it. Besides that, we just started doing HELOCs on investment properties. So that's a pretty rare thing. A HELOC, for anybody who doesn't know, because I'm now going to be unassumptive, is a line of credit on the house, which you can take out and, do renovations with, or you can go put that money down to buy another house. But a lot of times it's primary and we have one in-house, but we also broker out loans. So we always find the best rate. It doesn't necessarily need to be us in-house that needs to service it. So we'll go find you the best rate. And on an investment property, that's a pretty new thing that, a lot of people may have some decent equity in and can use that to then go grow their portfolio again.
What's the minimum amount of equity that they have to have in their investment property in order to qualify for a line of credit? Like, let's say they have the minimum amount, and then how much from that minimum could you then lend them on a line of credit?
So it makes it kind of worth it for us if it's like at least 75 to $100,000 in
Okay.
equity. I mean, if we're spitting out a bunch of like $25,000 HELOCs, it's not necessarily, going to help us anyway. It's just going to be a lot of trouble. I'm happy to, talk to anybody about any questions they may have on it, but usually 75 to 100 is a good starting point. And then like I know I'm looking to do one right now. Actually for my contractor, Paul, funny enough, and it's going to be like a $250,000 line of credit.
Right.
So there's no maximum by any means.
That's a good service to have. I know a lot of people have issues with the line of credits.
Yeah, it's just more money to go play with, right? And you already have it. It's not like you have to put it in an application, but it's not like you have to buy something and fix it up and then get equity in it. The equity's there. You did the work in the beginning, and now you can reap that benefit and go build yourself another bigger portfolio. So it's a great idea and a great option to have. People are excited about that.
I love lines of credit. I have three right now, and I've had them all for years, and I will keep them for years. And it's helped me to harvest the equity. And I use them like bank accounts. I try to pay them to zero, and then you don't owe anything. But then if I need a large amount of cash to buy a property in cash, I can do it and then cash out refi later once I've already rehabbed it. So I'm kind of my own hard money lender in that way, but I'm paying way lower percentage in interest and also no points up front. And I'm telling you, it's been a game changer for me to have these lines of credit. So I definitely encourage the listener, like if you have a property with a good amount of equity and you're trying to buy more, a line of credit is a really great way to do it. Banks typically are okay with you using the equity from property A as the down payment for the down payment on property B, even though they're not going to want to cover that all on property B. But if you are basically leveraging two properties to buy the second, they're okay with that. They're always going to ask, where are you getting this down payment? And I'll say, oh, I'm pulling it from my line of credit on this property. No problem. They have no issue with that because that's the other bank's liability and they now have their own, but they have first lien. So I love lines of credit. That's really great that y'all have that now.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the other one we just did with the DSCR that they just came out with was you can use short-term rental numbers instead of long-term. Like for the rent to cover the PITI payment, you can use short-term. They just use AirDNA. They get the projection on the property for 12 months and divide it by 12. And I think that's going to help a lot of people, especially in this market with all the short-term that goes on.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a good option for people as well.
Very good, Gabe. Fantastic.
That's a big option. You don't see that often.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then
Gabe,
obviously like for for people like me who are just getting into it, like house hacking, conventional and FHA, we can talk all day about that, right? There's so many different ways to go about that. And the options that we offer are endless at that point.
Well, and Gabe, the thing I love about you and Guild is that you don't work with one bank with one product. You work with multiple banks with multiple products. So I really encourage everyone. Gabe's a local. He knows this market. He's learning even more about it every single day. And he can, whatever your issue, he's got a solution for that. And that is absolutely massive. We love that about working with y'all.
Yeah, it's great. Like I said, I wouldn't want to work for anybody but John, so I couldn't be happier in the position that I'm in here at Guild.
Gabe, where can people find you? I know you're mentioning your Instagram and all that. How can they find you?
So I just started a new business Instagram. It's Gabe Knows Loans on Instagram. And then you can also look me up on LinkedIn and Facebook at Gabe Santine, my name. And then, feel free to reach out to me. My email is gsantine@guildmortgage.net. And my phone number, if you would like, is 609-306-8981. So I'm happy to talk to you about real estate. I mean, that's what we do, right? Just gets you excited, gets me out of bed in the morning. So that's where you can reach me. Feel free to reach out for anything, help on loans or, help with investing, anything like that.
I love it, Gabe. I was teasing you a couple meetups ago because you're now an OG at our meetup. You've been coming through with info and helping the guys that are trying to get their first deal. And like, I just want to say what a pleasure it's been to watch you go from, I live in New Jersey, I want to come to Savannah and buy real estate. And I'm like, okay, yeah. Here we are, and now you're an OG and you're helping others and you're teaming up and so happy for your success. So thank you for coming on today. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I love coming on here and talking a little shop. So I appreciate you having me back.
Awesome.
Will do, guys. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you listening today. What did you think about that podcast, Julie?
I think Gabe is a total stud. He's who I hope my children are someday, I just am a big fan. And the other thing I wanted to say, I wanted to work it into the podcast, but I couldn't figure out who. But being Gabe's agent and friend these last few years, I've actually gotten to know Gabe's family. And I want to give a shout out to Gabe's mom and dad. I was so nervous as his agent helping him buy his first home. And as Gabe said on the podcast, the first thing he got under contract, it had some pretty severe issues. And Gabe's family, they're so nervous. Here he has moved completely away from New Jersey. He's out of the nest. He's in a strange market with complete strangers. He's about to drop hundreds of thousands of dollars onto a property. And I felt their stress and I felt it too. I was also trying to have his back. It was just a very difficult situation. It wasn't foundation issues, but they had sealed the foundation inappropriately to where if something went wrong with the plumbing, Gabe would have had to cut through the floor, cut out all the work that they had done to seal off the foundation, including spray foam and sealant, and I don't even know what. As long as everything went right, it would have been fine. But had it gone wrong, it would have gone really wrong for Gabe. And so we were all kind of in this situation. So through this, I spoke to his dad and I heard so much about his family. And I want to give the Santon family a shout out. The reason Gabe is awesome is because of his really fantastic family. And these guys have his back 100%, but I know how terrified they were. And I truly hope the Santon family will see this episode and also Gabe's other appearance on the show and be like, man, we have the best kid ever, because Gabe Santon is absolutely the best kid ever. He is awesome.
There you go. I haven't met his family, but I'm sure they're great because he's awesome as well. He's not afraid to get in a room and introduce himself. Hey, if you like and enjoyed this podcast, spread the word. We appreciate it. Please let us know what you want to hear next, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.
Bye-bye.